Well, U.S. farm groups voiced their support for Indian farmers who have been protesting new ag laws in the region. The reforms make drastic changes to how producers profit, reducing their income potential. Gurvinder Singh with U.S.-based nonprofit United SIKHS joins us now with further perspective. Thanks so much for joining us. For those who may be unfamiliar, what are some of the commonalities among American and Indian farmers?
Yes, ma'am. First of all, thank you for having us. The commonalities would be that, a farmer nourishes and beautifies anything he touches or she touches. And farming is not just a livelihood, it's a way of life. It's a civilization of sorts. So those commonalities are what, bind us across the 7 seas. And the fact of the matter is when a farmer is impacted, it doesn't just impact their families, it impacts the consumer. It impacts everybody who eats. It impacts our bottom line. It impacts our wallet. So those are the commonalities that are shared, with our brothers and sisters in India and, of course, our brothers and sisters in the United States.
Absolutely. Bring us up to speed on India's new agricultural laws and their potential impact on local farmers. Why are these protests happening for those who may be unfamiliar?
Yes. So what happened when these ordinances were brought up, they were brought up in, you can say in the middle of the night, if you will, during the COVID pandemic. There was no political opposition, there was no discussion, there was no committee, there was no deliberation or what have you. And then when these ordinances were allowed to continue, they became a law. Now, what these laws specifically state, very in a nutshell, the first one, there are 3 of them. The first one eliminates any minimum support pricing, which means there's no safety net, there's no safety valve whatsoever. That's been eradicated. Number 2 is going to be the right to hoard. So there's a 1955 Essential Commodities Act, which this does away with. So what that allows is companies to come in and artificially play around with the economy of scale, which means they can decrease the supply, which will obviously increase the demand. Now, that will not only impact the farmers again, but it's going to impact, for example, you and I. When we go to the grocery store, when we go to the market, when we start purchasing food, 40% of the Indian population is already below the poverty line, meaning they only have access to 1 meal a day. We can only imagine what will happen once these laws become more prevalent. The third one is there is no legal recourse. So if a farmer has any argument or any thing that he wants to bring up to discuss, he has no recourse to take it to a court. He will have to take it to an officer within that vicinity. Now, what happens in third world countries, as we all know, corruption is rampant. And when you have companies coming in that are, multinationals, that are huge conglomerates, who do we think is going to have the say and the sway at that deliberation? So when you take away someone's rights, then you don't allow them to even voice their opinion and even have a say or to even bring about any sort of semblance of law or justice. That's when you have hundreds and thousands of people on the streets protesting their very right to survive.
I love that you're getting behind this, but let's talk about how big of a battle you're facing here and what your anticipations are and maybe a timeline. What are you looking towards there?
So with the grace of the Almighty, it's like a do or die situation. It's like if you don't, you will starve. Your families will lands, their everything that you have been bequeathed to by your ancestors and your forefathers will be taken away. So it's a sense of, damn if you do, damn if you don't. That if you don't, you will die a slow death. And if you do, then you will have to go up against, a government. You will have to go up against a powerful government. But what has been done is because of the peaceful and just the massive protests that are occurring on the streets, where you have elders and you have children and you have women sleeping on the streets, sleeping under trolleys, challenging this brutal winter weather. You see those images, they have gone international. So you have politicians and diplomats from the United States, you have from Canada, from the UK, you have celebrities who are amplifying the voices of those on the ground. So the voiceless are not as voiceless as they would have been before. So with the amplification of the work going on, with multiple farming organizations in the United States who have lent their voices now. This allows it to be an international event that is taking place, so India is on the spotlight. So, whatever decisions they make, when they're shooting water cannons at 80-year-old farmers who also served in the military and defended the border, it becomes something like the replay of the 1960s civil rights, when you had dogs that were put on those who were peacefully protesting. So when you have batons that are being lodged, when you have these sedition charges that are being brought about on people who are simply peacefully protesting on the streets for their very right to survive, I think justice will prevail. I think that good will prevail. And I think that with the voices that have converged internationally to put a spotlight on what is occurring, I think those human rights transgressions, they must cease and they will cease.
Well, we know that this is something that people are going to be fighting for a long time. We appreciate you breaking it down for us so clearly. You're very articulate. We appreciate that. United Sikhs International Humanitarian Aid Director Gurvinder Singh, thank you for helping us understand a very, very complicated and important issue around the globe.